Call the meeting to order. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Ready for a roll call?
Do a roll call.
Yep.
Chairman Glass,
Here?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Here.
Commissioner Say,
Here.
Commissioner Putnam,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Ruth. Here. And Jessica Romero is absent. And Kathy Smith is absent.
Okay. First part of the meeting is the oral communication. If there's someone that would like to address something to the Planning Commission that is not going to be on tonight's agenda, now would be the time to do it. We won't really discuss it, but if you had something that you wanted to bring up, we'd be happy to bring it up at this time if you'd like to speak. Otherwise, if it's on the agenda, then you'll be given a chance to speak at that time. Anybody want? Public? Okay. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Entertain a motion.
I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 16th meeting as written.
We have a second
I second.
for a vote.
Chairman Glass,
Yes?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Say.
I have to abstain, I was ill.
That's right. Commissioner Putnam
Yes.
and Commissioner Ruth.
Yes.
Okay. So our first public hearings on a variance and site plan at 150 Middle Terrace. Susanna, you want to get us started, please?
All right, so item number 2, the first item of the public hearing is a setback, height, and floor area ratio variance and a site plan application for a 180 square foot bathroom addition on the top floor of an existing duplex, and it's exempt from environmental review in accordance with CEQA section 15301, existing facilities. The property is located at 150 Middle Terrace and is owned by applicant John Bumbarger. Are they in the audience tonight? They are not. If you have any questions, I'm available. Oh, okay. So we do have the representative from the transient rental license company, as well as Lenny, who completed the plan submittal. This property has undergone some pretty extensive renovations in the past. It's located directly adjacent to the city public stairs that were recently renovated on Middle Terrace Road. The 4-story duplex was originally constructed in 1927 and has undergone significant remodels and changes in ownership, many of which were the subject of public hearings. The current application is limited to a minor addition on the 4th story, the 2nd story above the street, and proposes to add a bedroom to the existing bathroom that measures 11 by 16. The project does not include a kitchen and does not constitute a separate unit, nor is that the intent of the applicant. And then staff has included an analysis of the project's compliance with the medium density standards of development on the next page of the staff report. We are recommending that the Planning Commission make the finding that it is in compliance with the 2022 growth policy, that they approve the site plan with the findings included. Staff is also recommending approval of the variances and find the project exempt from requiring a coastal development permit. So all in all, the findings that staff recommends to the Planning Commission is that they find the project categorically exempt from both CEQA and a coastal development permit. Supports approval for the site plan with all applicable entitlements incorporated. Support the issuance of the floor area ratio setback and height variances, and find the application allowed under the 2022 growth policy.
Before we open a public hearing, does anybody have questions of staff? Okay. Public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this matter? For or against, just please come up, state your name and address, and got a couple minutes. Anybody wish to? No one's coming up. We'll close the public hearing. Discussion? Or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted with the staff conditions 1 through 5 on staff recommendation.
Second. Any further discussion?
Did Bob second?
Call for a vote?
Okay, Chairman Glass,
Yes?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruth.
Yes.
Okay. The next item, I'm going to recuse myself as I live next to the property, and I'll let Eric Hewitt hand it over to Eric. See you in a bit.
Okay. 67 years.
Item number 3, staff report, please.
Got it. Okay, item number 3 is requesting a transient rental license and coastal development permit to allow the renting or leasing of a room with or without table boards. The location of the property is 67 Playa Azul. The owner and applicant is Kathleen Streeter and Kim Wooden. Are you in the office? Kim Wooden. And the property is located in the low-density residential zone. The property contains 2 bedrooms and 2 baths and is consistent with the general plan and is allowed under the 2022 growth policy. The property manager for the unit is listed as Hamilton Cove, and contact information is included in your staff report. The subject property and all surrounding properties are developed with single and multi-residential units. The requested transient rental license does not involve any physical changes to the existing residence that would adversely affect or be material detrimental to adjacent use, buildings, and structures. The proposed project is categorically exempt under Section 15305 of the state CEQA guidelines, minor alterations in land use limitations, which do not result in changes in land use or density. The project requires a coastal development permit under Section 9-8.102 of the Avalon Municipal Code, and the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. City staff have received comments in opposition of the transient rental license, and they are included in your staff reports. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission find the project categorically exempt under Section 15305 of state CEQA guidelines and minor alterations in land use limitations. Adopt the findings necessary as outlined in the staff report to support approval of the coastal development permit, including the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. and find the application is allowed under the 2022 annual growth policy. That's it.
Any questions for staff before we reopen the continued hearing?
I guess my question for staff is, when this was carried over, I believe 2 meetings ago, it was carried over 2 meetings ago and then last meeting as well, and I wasn't here last meeting, so I don't know why it was carried over again. The October meeting, were you able to reach out to and find out? I think the question that I had was with the CCNRs, the ones that I read, I followed up on that. It doesn't say anything about saturation and that it's their right, and how the city, communicating with them, how the city feels about, how do we govern that? And are we able to govern that? And we have these CUPs in front of us, and as far as the application process goes, they satisfy the application, the municipal code. So I feel like the last 2 meetings, we were all at a standstill, and have you gotten information, and do you have information for us on how to move forward?
Yeah, I can address that on the saturation. We typically have not used saturation for Hamilton Code, but you can under the municipal code. The municipal code does provide that that the planning commission shall consider saturation if it results in all the units around that unit being CUPs. So you can't consider that. That's just a consideration. It's not an automatic denial of it. The difficulty with condominiums is that the way saturation is usually looked at a property map, you look who's next to it, the condominium is up and above, and so you can't consider that as well, but it's just a factor. It's not something that knocks you out or is automatic approval. It's just a factor that you take into consideration when determining CUPs.
So when I received the letter from the president, I believe, it was the president of the association, and they gave us all the rules and regulations for having a CUP or a license. They're really strict. They're almost stricter than we are in our city, in town. And so I did like that part of it. And going back to when it was developed, in the beginning, it looked like when people purchased these, they knew what they were purchasing if they read through the CCNRs and what that development was, I guess, intended for.
Well, I will say that our rules do say that it's condominium developments or I think it's condominium developments over 10 or more. The homeowner association has to
Give that right.
agree to this,
Right.
and they have
Okay.
in those documents. That still doesn't mean that you cannot consider each one individually as to whether, that. So you still have the same rights you do to consider each CUP at Hamilton Cove, the same factors you do
In town.
anywhere else in the
Okay.
city.
Okay. I guess that was my because for a long time, we never had anyone come up here. So we
Right.
just kind of went with it.
Well, and it does say that, under their rules, saturation analysis is not relevant. But I mean, that's their rules.
That's their rules.
Yeah,
Right.
we supersede that, right? So,
You can,
yeah.
City rules always trump,
CCNRs.
the CCNRs, yes. But, you can take that into as a factor, but again, ultimately, the city rules govern. And again, saturation is a factor, it is not determinative.
Any other questions? I've got one, actually. am I right in understanding that if a CUP gets 3 formal complaints to the city, that it comes back before us for review and possible withdrawal or taking away of their CUP permit?
I know we've had an issue in the past validating complaints, so we're working on, tidying up our procedure on what exactly we require as far as documentation takes. I personally have not, done a revocation hearing for complaints as opposed to financial non-compliance, so I might turn that over to Scott.
Have you received,
If I could, I don't think there's any rule that we have that says 3. In fact, frankly, the way CUP is written is, any violation of the CUP is ground for revocation. It may be a practice that we only do 3. I'm not aware of
and it
that.
has to be in writing?
Well, we have to have
Consent,
proof
right.
that, you have to have proof that someone's complained. So if people
Right.
don't complain to the city, we don't have notice of it, we don't have the ability to take action on it.
Exactly.
But for instance, if there was a particular incident that was really, really, egregious, under the rules, you could revoke for one really, really bad breach of the CUP. Again, remember, CUPs mean conditional use permit. They are conditioned on the compliance with the rules that the city say.
So,
It sets forth.
do
Yeah.
we have any formal complaints on any of these in writing?
So this item, I believe, is for a new application.
No,
I'm
no,
not-
I'm okay, but
The question was, has the city ever received a formal complaint
from any of the
from any
opposition?
person in Hamilton Cove for a bad operation of a CUP or a complaint about a CUP?
Formally?
We've received formal complaints on various properties, but I don't believe any of them are on tonight's agenda.
No, but
No.
or any Hamilton Cove?
Yes.
No? Yes or no?
Yes, we've gotten complaints.
To clarify, we have the letters of opposition that are included in your staff
Okay.
reports.
All right.
No, on specific incidents, I guess I should say. So like if someone were to complain, say the person, like, someone's complaining about Hamilton Cove in general, okay? But if someone from Hamilton Cove calls in and says, this specific property did this and nothing was resolved and these are the issues on this day, like specific properties, specific, formal complaints. Incidents, exactly.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Say, if I could, I mean, I can speak to the fact that we have had, and this gets to the difficulty that we were just talking about, is that being able to verify them.
Okay.
Oftentimes these happen, the issues arise on the weekends. We come in on a Monday and there's a complaint on a phone line at City Hall on a Friday night at 11 o'clock, the music's too loud. Those have come in, and then what we try to do is verify with the Sheriff's Department if they received any calls to be able to verify that. And that's where the
That's where the-
difficulty
okay.
comes. So we're in the process of trying to establish a more, a better system to receive complaints on the city's website. But we do have to verify them, and that's why I've told many people when they call is, call the Sheriff's Department. If the answer is you don't think they're gonna do anything, at least they can verify the noise, the time, what was going on, who they spoke with,
It's on
and it
record.
gives the city that ability. So while we've had calls, I couldn't say that
Right.
we were able to verify them.
Thank you.
Any more? Okay, I'm going to reopen the continuation, and I believe we're going to, since this is our second bite of the apple, we're going to limit everybody to 2 minutes unless a special circumstance. So we'll open it up, and when you come to the front, please give your name and address crystal clear, speak it into the microphone, and thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your attention in this matter. It's been 39 years since anybody has spoken about Hamilton Cove, and we're speaking to you now because there's an ongoing issue and we need some solutions.
Can you give me your name and address,
Sure, I'm
please?
so sorry. Kate Rudden, 95 Playa Azul. As you know, there have been 16 letters submitted by those who rent and some who don't. from Hamilton Cove owners. Regarding Hamilton Cove covenants, conditions, and restrictions, this was restated in 2018. Single-family residences, family residential elements of condominiums in the single-family residence shall be used exclusively for residential purposes. Owners may rent condominiums in single-family residence, provided they do so in compliance with the rules and regulations of the association and all applicable laws, meaning municipal code. The right to rent may be restricted or terminated by the Board of Directors if rules and regulations regarding renting and repeating violated by owners or renters occupying a condominium or residence. Hamilton Cove has approximately 115 short-term rental units, making Hamilton Cove the largest hotel on the island. Each of the 115 units comes with a golf cart. When you rent in town, you don't get a golf cart. When you rent in Bahia Vista or Sol Vista, you don't get a golf cart. Access to tennis courts, pool, jacuzzi, barbecues, miniature golf, croquet, gym, balconies, making our residential community more attractive to short-term renters than most accommodations on the island. The Hotel Atwater is the second largest hotel after Hamilton Cove, and they have 95 rooms, and none of the amenities listed above. So our occupancy is quite high. In the 39 years, no one has come forward to oppose a CUP. We've tried to work with owners. We've tried to work with our homeowners association, which, as you know, has put together fines. The problem is enforcing those fines. We have one security guard, and we have a board that has to meet on every incident. So it's not working. Municipal code is not being upheld, and we need to fix the issues before we add any more CUPs. Most of the recent sales have had dormant CUPs attached to them. Once sold, the new owners activating CUPs are not required to come to the Avalon City Planning Commission for approval. 1065 is a unit that was bought by owner 1067. Building 4, which is behind me, has 100% rentals. If 893 is approved, which is below me, the entire, below me, all of the units will be rentals. We only have 2 steps down to those buildings. Those are rented, I would say, 360 days of the year. Noise from buildings 17, 18, 13, all over is a nuisance. I've heard people complain that many of us rented in the past, and that's true. But we rented at a time when there were only 2 rental companies. In the 15 years that my spouse and I rented our unit, I got 1 call from Kathy Sweeney, and I was able to call Denny Hansi, who came over to my unit and told the people to be quiet. It's a changed environment. We have Airbnb, we have VRBO, we have Hotels.com. We don't just have 2 rental companies. The topography of Hamilton Cove is unique and differing from downtown Avalon. The canyon where Hamilton Cove is built is relatively steep and narrow compared to the canyon surrounding downtown Avalon. Hamilton Cove has the tallest buildings on the island. Some buildings are even taller than the casino. Recently, 5-story homes were built above buildings 17 and 18, adding to our density. Because of the unique topography of Hamilton Cove, sound reverberation and echo from short-term renters is an ongoing nuisance. Again, we have no enforcement. This has caused a negative impact on health and general welfare of residents and renters. So when renters come, they hear the same issues that we hear.
10
Sound
seconds,
is louder at night versus day because of temperature variances. Short-term renters returning at night from downtown are often drunk and continue to party on their balconies. At night in Hamilton Cove, pinpointing where the noise is generating from is very difficult, if not impossible. To ask a member of security to climb 10 to 100 steps to find the offenders is not feasible. Depending on where you live in Hamilton Cove, sounds can be louder. So in building 10 and 11 are right on the water. They don't necessarily hear all the sounds that are coming from other units. Since 1984, there has been little or no enforcement of Avalon Municipal Code 31317 as it relates to transient rental permits. The proposed new transient rental permits will jeopardize, adversely affect, endanger, and otherwise constitute a menace to the public health, safety, or general welfare, and materially detrimental to the property of others located in the vicinity of use. Thank you for your time. Again, we're looking for solutions. We want to pause. We have to pause. We have too many issues that need to be resolved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Did you have something to say?
Name and address, please.
Yes, my name's George McCormick. I'm a resident and owner at Hamilton Cove. I wanted to request that no more CUPs be authorized until the Planning Commission and the City of Avalon enforce the municipal codes. I know that Hamilton Cove asked for a waiver not to put forward on every unit the occupancy, maximum occupancy, and a 24/7 contact number some years ago, many years ago, maybe decades ago. But in doing so, they gave up the only authority we have in trying to regulate renters. We have guards, but the guards can go down and say, oh, someone's noisy, please stop. But when people are drunk and rude, and they are verbally abused at times, and one time reportedly physically abused, they're not able to intervene. The only people who can intervene are the owners and their agents. So we need to have that number posted now, and so that the owners can respond. They come and see the owners, talk to them. If they don't change their behavior, they say they have to leave, or they call the police. Now, the Hamilton Cove Housing Association has become aware that, we need those numbers because the numbers that we had, limited numbers we had available, didn't work. Nobody could find those people in the last couple of years. It's been very difficult to find them. I think Hamilton Cove Realtor has been much better, but the others. But there's still, that's been a problem. And so they've begun in recent months to try to gather numbers. But those are posted at the Hamilton website, and they're not readily available. We need numbers posted on the condos that are being rented, so that the guards, the other owners, other renters can actually access those numbers and call. Now, in addition to this, we know that the City of Avalon has a renter complaint form, but that form's down here in the City Hall, and it's not online. Someone mentioned they might put it online. It needs to be online so that if somebody does find a problem, they can fill out that form, get it online. Our guards can get the line, the owners get the line, other renters can get that, and they can fill out a form that you actually get a measure of what the problem is. Because right now you're not collecting that data except for random people occasionally calling when they're very, very disturbed. So I think that needs to be implemented as well. And of course, maximum occupancy needs to be checked because, sometimes there's way too many people in the condo than there should be. So that's really all I had to say. I do say in saturation, about 75% of the owners have a CUP. 15% don't use it. They just think it increases the value of their property. And, this short-term renting occurred, the Coastal Commission insisted upon it, but in recent times, Coastal Commission has changed their view, as we know from recent decisions in San Diego County, where they now limit it to 30% along coastal communities. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, well, your 2
Greetings
minutes.
to Avalon Planning Commission. I'm Skip Hudson, a retired orthodontist. My wife and I, Debbie, have been living over in Hamilton Cove full-time for the last 4 or 5 years. Debbie and I love the island. We just love living here. Our condominium is at 57 Gaviota, Building 18. Of 185 units in our Hamilton Cove community, 60% short-term rental permits. I want to go on record to say that our Hamilton Cove community is saturated with units being rented. As an example, the California Coastal Commission recently voted 12-0, capping short-term rental permits to 30%. I think that's way down from, we're just double and saturated in Hamilton Cove. At present, it's not within our ability to manage the large number of renters. The situation is overtaxing our facilities and creating noise due to the late night hours of partying and loud golf carts. There's just not enough security staffing, basically. We need time to figure out a way to monitor those that rent. I don't think it's a good idea to add more rentals. Thanks for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Corina, Catalina Island Vacation Rentals. I just have a couple of corrections on the percentages that were just said here. There's only, there's 191 units in Hamilton Cove. 115 of them do rent short-term. 60 of them do not rent, and 16 units are occupied full-time. That's 8% of the overall number in Hamilton Cove that is occupying them full-time. Much like it was mentioned before, I've actually checked. I made a FOIA request earlier today at the city, and a few of the people that are opposing this permit still pay for their business licenses. So it seems insincere to me to be opposing a CUP while you're holding the real estate value of your property by paying your business license yearly and having it up to date. In addition to that, the HOA in Hamilton Cove certainly has the strictest rules there have ever been that I've seen in between the two destinations that we manage, Palm Springs and Catalina Island. I don't think that there's a problem with too many of them, considering the number of occupancy in Hamilton Cove year-round. I think it's also very important to accentuate if all of the candidates, the one tonight, and there's another one, 1786 coming up, if they were told that they are applying for a permit on an overly saturated area. And if that's the case, I feel like the city should have been transparent and should have told these owners, hey, maybe you shouldn't apply right now because the area is overly saturated in Hamilton Cove. And I don't know if that was said to them, but I'm just saying it out loud because it hasn't been a problem before, and I see that it's becoming one right now. Is there any questions? I'm here, and I have the data from the HOA with the numbers.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Julie Glass, 45 Gaviota. And basically, everything I said at the last meeting, this still holds true. I mean, this has been exaggerated. I've lived at Hamilton Cove for 30 years. It was originally designed as a second home community. They were supposed to have a hotel there. It's what it was designed for, was renters. What you have now is, from what Kate said, there were 16 letters you received, 16 owners that complained. Out of 191 by my math, that's 6%, somewhere in there, right? Okay, so you've got 6% of the community, that most of them have CUPs, and are complaining that aren't getting what they want from the board of directors because the majority of people at Hamilton Cove want this, want to be able to have the option to vacation rental their home. So you've got a small group that's throwing a temper tantrum, not getting their way with the board because the majority rules. And there are not, you would think the way that this is being described is Hamilton Cove, it's like being outside the Marlin Club. I've lived there, I've lived all over the property in Building 3, Building 8, Building 11. When something arises, the guards are called, our company's called. We get calls in reference to CIVR, we respond because it's what you do. The guards, it's their job. I'm sorry, if they get a call, they know that they will go, and if they have to walk up 10 flights of stairs, which they don't, normally a phone call will work, or just going by. So this seems misleading and a huge exaggeration. If you're out there, I think, which all of you have been out at Hamilton Cove, it's quiet. The most noise that I've heard in Building 3 and Building 11 is from the harbor. The harbor comes in, and that we are in a bowl, and it comes up, and that's a lot of the noise too. So I know I heard my beeper, but basically it's 191 units, 191 votes, and everybody knew what they were getting into when they bought out there. If you have any questions, we have a board member here. A lot of people you can talk to. 2 rental agencies are being represented, so we'd be glad to answer any questions or look into anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone who hasn't spoken that would like to? No, anyone who hasn't, we're not going to get 2 shots today.
I just wanted to get correction on the occupancy.
No, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Martin Curtin. I'm a board member at Hamilton Cove. Live at 1069 Playa Azul, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. No questions?
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Martin.
Anybody else who hasn't spoke? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing. Not continued, but closed. And
I have a question first. So I know one of the homeowners who opposed said that they didn't, we should stop all future applications until something's resolved. But I know that's not, we don't have the authority to do that, correct?
Sure we do.
To stop? Doesn't that a moratorium, and that's,
No, we can deny them one at a time. Moratorium.
What?
Yeah, I saw yeah. You can take.
You can deny it.
You
I
can
know.
deny them, well, let me go, what the city council ultimately has authority, and they've considered this. They've directed that we do two things.
Okay.
One, we start revoking CUPs. That's later tonight.
Yes.
Second is that we've changed the CUP process so that they are not conditional use permits, they're licenses.
Which we did.
Which you did, which means that they don't travel with the property owner anymore. They terminate when the property is sold. This other thing that the city council has done is they have amended the municipal code to say that after you get, if you have a CUP right now, you can transfer it once to someone, but the second time you transfer it, it's null and void and you have to reapply. So the council has started a process to ultimately reduce CUPs in the city. And so that's the direction that we have from the council. That's what we've done so far. A moratorium has come up several times since I've been here 13 years, and they've debated it, they've never enacted one, but
Yeah.
they always could.
Yeah,
But-
okay,
but
yeah,
right
but I
now-
guess my question was, we can't enact it,
You can recommend a moratorium.
but the council's the one who has to
Council
make
has-
that
yes, that's correct.
authority, it's not us, right?
And I did want to make a distinction between the two. A moratorium as opposed to, just straight up denying every
Right.
application that comes in. I would just be wary of, application fees and the public's, expectations of whether or not they're going to be approved or disapproved after submitting a full application. I think we could potentially, if we automatically start denying every permit, that might not be the best solution.
No, that's what I was just trying to say, that we don't have the authority as a commission
Yeah.
to just stop all.
Yeah.
Like you guys said earlier, you could deny every permit, or you could recommend a moratorium to the council.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like that would be a change in direction
Right.
and a
Yeah.
change in the way we've looked at it. And during our 2+ years debate on saturation and what that meant.
A lot more than,
And putting a percentage on it.
Right.
Those were all rejected. We couldn't come up with a consensus,
and Hamilton Cove was a huge factor in all of it as well.
Right.
I feel, and we went for years going through this.
Yeah,
And the formula that we came up with, which you just laid out.
I remember we talked 40%
Right.
in the flats or
Right.
50% +1, and, I mean, we really debated it.
And the reality is we've come a long way in the last couple of years trying to improve the process, improve the way we manage them. And I'm hearing tonight, and loud and clear I'm hearing tonight, that there's some quality of life issues that we as a city need to address immediately. as well as working with the Hamilton Cove Homeowners Association to handle those things. Whether this applicant tonight is approved or denied, it's not going to change those facts. You're still going to have those problems. So what I would like to do is get on that. We've walked down a path where a CUP, through good public planning, doesn't follow the property in perpetuity. I think that's stupid. We now have it to where it's revocable, it's removable. We've got a right as a community, whether it's here on the flats or in Hamilton Cove, to deny them and will. We didn't have that right before. But whether or not this applicant tonight is approved or denied, it's not going to change the quality of life issues that you currently face. So we need to do a better job as a city to manage the complaints that are within the community, whether they're at Hamilton Cove or on Descanso Avenue. And I think that's what we need to direct staff tonight into developing a plan and developing a way to manage those complaints and to facilitate removal of permits like we will be doing tonight in other areas. I think that makes sense. I hear you loud and clear that it's become an issue in your community, and I intend to address it along with my fellow commissioners so that this is a great place to live. It's not just the people living there full time that are affected by noise. It's also the neighboring visitor that's paying the city a TOT as well. With that being said, I would like to approve this applicant tonight, and I would like to direct staff in very short or between now and this summer. I am certain that this city can put together a management plan working with Hamilton Cove Homeowners Association to facilitate a plan to stop the abuses of quality of life issues. And Martin's in the room. Two of my dear friends are board members as well. I will volunteer to meet with the board, to share with them what we do, get a couple council people involved. Let's nip it in the bud. Because the problem is not just in Hamilton Cove. Okay, quality of life issues are throughout town.
Okay.
And let's be fair, this is a great place to visit. Everybody wants to have a good time here. And let's make it a positive thing. It's also a good revenue source for the city of Avalon. So I'd love to see the money come into town, people have a good time, and not disturb their neighbors. I don't think that that's unrealistic. So that being said, I'd like to approve this make a motion to approve this application with a standard list of conditions and direct staff to develop a plan to mitigate quality of life issues in Hamilton Cove as well as within Avalon.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and second.
Can I say
Any
something?
further discussion?
Yeah, well, I think we should, but we talk about saturation, and out there, we never looked at that. We just go ahead and approve. We don't look at it with the same thing. We don't get a map of saying, is there saturation? It's, we should change that. Or
Then
at least,
I will modify my motion, Sandy, to include bringing back a study item to this panel for us to study saturation in Hamilton Cove as well.
well, I just mean, but in town, we always look at saturation.
Right.
And if we're under the same rules, and even for us, we can't just deny it for no reason. I think we'd have to have reasons.
Yep, I agree with you.
So not say, we don't, that's what has to be changed, the underlying thing, or things that are on the books need to be enforced and considered.
So is that,
Do you modify your
motion,
second?
Do you accept that modification that included in this? We
Does-
will be doing a study of saturation in Hamilton.
Yes, I accept.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Hold on.
You have a vote?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet?
No. Any further discussion? I want to make sure. I'll go very slow on this one. Okay, seeing no more discussion, call for a vote,
Okay.
please.
Chairman Glass? Oh,
Abstain.
done. Sorry about that. Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt?
Yes.
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruth?
No.
Okay, motion carried.
I believe we have another CUP application for Hamilton Cove tonight, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
So if we could take that one out of order, so that we don't have to have
Glass come
Oh,
back
okay.
and
come
forth?
back and
Sure.
forth and back and forth.
Then you skip to 5.
That's 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, 5 and 7?
Yeah,
Susanna?
yeah, 7 too.
7-2?
Yes.
Okay.
So true.
Number 5 is 93 Playa Azul,
So we have 5, 7,
5 and 7.
Yeah.
yeah, right?
Okay, so this is 93 Playa Azul. It's item number 5. They're requesting a transient rental license and a coastal development permit. The owner and applicant is Chris Lahane, and he is right here in the audience. The property is located in a low-density residential zone, and the property contains 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. The use is consistent with the general plan and is allowed under the 2022 growth policy. The property manager for the unit is listed as Francisco Bravo, and the contact information is included with your staff report. The subject property and all surrounding properties are developed with single and multi-residential units. The requested transient rental license does not involve any physical changes to the existing residence that would adversely affect or materially detrimental to adjacent uses, buildings, and structures. The proposed project is categorically exempt under section 15305 of the state CEQA guidelines. The project requires a coastal development permit under section 9-8.102 of the Avalon Municipal Code, and the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. The city staff have received comments, both in favor and opposition of the transient rental license. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission find the project categorically exempt under section 15305 of state CEQA guidelines. Adopt the findings necessary as outlined in the staff report to support approval of the coastal development permit, including that the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. And find the application is allowed under the 2022 annual growth policy. That is it on my part.
Any questions for staff before we open the hearing? And this one is not a continuation, I don't think. It's just a
No.
regular one.
This is not a
This is a new
continuation.
one.
Okay,
This is a
good.
new one.
Any questions for staff? Open the hearing. Anyone wish to speak for or against or provide any kind of comment on this?
Hi, Kate Rudden, 895 Playa Azul. As I mentioned before, the building behind me, Building 4, is 100% rentals, rented all the time. I have renters on this side of me, and underneath, I will now have renters all below. 892, which is next to 893, had 2 domestic violence incidents where a sheriff's department were called out. That was never communicated to the city. CIVR never came out to kick those people out. Again, we need municipal code adhered to in the community of Hamilton Cove. So regarding saturation, I respectfully ask, and you have a letter from Carol Reynolds as well, that this unit be denied, because I've got now 3 by the same rental company underneath me, a building behind me at 100%, and renters on this side. My next door neighbor in 896 is also opposed to this as well, which you have a letter on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The letter from Carol Reynolds, she's not an owner out there. She doesn't live there. If everybody was out there, all the owners lived out there, they would be allowed to use their property. The noise would be ridiculous, but it's their right to use their property. So again, with the noise, yes, I get it, but the guards respond. The police respond. The companies respond. we respond. And I don't know about the domestic abuse situation, I wasn't there, but if the police are responding and somebody's beating up his girlfriend or she's beating up him, they should be arrested. That's not really a rental issue. That happens, we've had owners do that. That's something that's just unfortunately a problem in society, but yeah, have them arrested, but it has nothing to do with the rental agency. You're gonna find jackasses out there, regardless if they're an owner or renter, whatever. So, again, the majority of the people out there rent their units. We have lots of rules. We have so many rules out there that it's a lot of rules and a lot of restrictions, and the association fines people. They fine owners all the time. I'm trying to remember exactly what they collected last year in fines. It was something like $16,000 or something. We're trying to take control of it. And again, if there's a problem, and it's a legitimate problem, not just people trying to get rid of their neighbors' CUPs, then yeah, pull it. But let the people be able to use their units. Let the people be able to keep their units, because a lot of them, that's how they're making the association dues. That's how they're paying for their units. It's something that I think it's a matter of being a right of a homeowner. And yes, we do have the right, as living out there, to quality of life. But there's a balance, and if everybody was out there using, again, if everybody used their property, the noise would be ridiculous. Everybody has the right to use their property. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, George McCormick, I have no objection to passing the CUPs. That's not the issue. The issue is I'd like to see some regulation of the renters who are out there, as I mentioned before, and I think that we need to see the municipal regulations enforced, because the only way to really address rental problems is to have an owner or their agent available. Now, the Hamilton Realty, they respond very well, but most of the rest of the group do not respond very well. So that's more than 75% of the group doesn't get a response. So we need to have those municipal codes in, and we need to have things listed so the number 24/7 number is available, and we document that it works. And to do that, we need to have a rental complaint form online, so that if it doesn't work, we have a rental complaint form. You're not getting somebody there. So my position is, I just don't like to see some enforcement so we can regulate, because the Housing Association has not been able to do it with their fines. The fines have been ineffective, and they've put rather fines that I didn't even expect they would do. But it just shows the level of the problem, and trying to collect 24/7 numbers has been a recent issue, but we still haven't gotten there yet. So we need help from the city. That's what I'm asking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, Carolina, I live Vacation Rentals, just trying to address the domestic violence claims that were brought up. Our company has not been informed about the domestic violence episode that happened at 92 Playa Azul until the day after. The police was called, and the owner was contacted again the day after. They were fined $600. They were not allowed to come back in. There is some video surveillance from some neighbors that took of them that were trying to accentuate on the fact that they were very dirty and messy and smoking. That's not a reason for eviction. We could have evicted them had we been contacted as the domestic violence episode was happening. After, it becomes almost impossible, and this is something that's been discussed with the police department. We have the correct verbiage in our contract that allows us to evict these people that don't respect the rules, as long as we're contacted as the incident happens. Second thing I want to bring up is that there's no property, to my knowledge, that's being rented for more than 60% of the time, and that's if it's a popular property. The occupancy rates are somewhere in between 45 to 50. Just numbers, not words. So if you need those, I'm happy to provide them, at least for the properties that we manage.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing.
So I have a quick question. I know we can't ask them a question, but has staff been notified that they have gone to the board and sit with them and try and resolve or come up with mitigation to try and create better security or rules, or do you know any, if they've said that they have gone to the board and nothing was done? Do you know? I'm asking you because I can't ask them, right? I can't ask them.
Can I just clarify?
The question is, have they gone to the board of directors at Hamilton Cove and tried to resolve
They being,
the people that are standing in front of us? I mean,
I don't know.
can I ask that? Because you say I can't ask questions. I'm just trying to see.
No, I'd say we close the hearing, and
Well, we're
I
vi-
think there's obviously been a lot of discussion between the board and
Well, we're
the
the
people who
same
aren't
thing,
for
though.
it.
Well, I
So
haven't
think
heard that.
based
I
on-
haven't heard them say, I've gone to the board and nothing was done.
But that doesn't.
I think that
if
is
they
what they're
didn't
saying.
go- If they've done that, it still comes
No,
down
I
to
understand. I'm
us,
just
but-
trying to see.
They're not getting satisfaction at the board.
Okay, and so then, I mean, I agree on, like, I think I've always said that there should be some numbers on the building so that people can, but then they said they had the security, so they had that resolved. I do think that we need to move forward with Bob's recommendations. I do want to say this, and it's probably not going to be popular, but when people are against something but carry a permit that has the ability to be used as a rental in the future, still has a business license, and still, even though it's not active, but used it for years prior, if I was against something 100% and had that same permit that they're complaining about, I would hand it in personally and say, I have no use for this, I don't believe in it, I don't agree with the CUPs around me, I don't like what it's created, and so I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time with that, and that is why I know people carry the CUPs, because they say it carries value to properties, and that was the whole reason why people wanted them, as well as creating a business and keeping them they enhance their property value, which makes it hard for residents to purchase homes here, and that's why we went to the licenses. But when you're sitting here in front of me and you're telling me you're against it, and it's causing problems to, your quality of life, which we do know, we have that problem in town, we have that problem at Hamilton Cove, but hand your permit in. I mean, you're not the only one. I'm saying, you're not
Okay.
the only one that,
Any other issues?
yeah, but I'm just saying,
Any other issues? Yeah,
no,
thank you.
but that is an issue for me.
Okay, well, but we're back at the same thing. We have a saturation, then clearly that sounds like that's saturation in this case. We haven't seen it because we've never tracked, since I've been following the city, period. We don't track that out there. We don't ask those questions. They do have their own security, and if you wind up calling the sheriff, hey, it happens in town. I'm not gonna go next door if somebody's doing something. I want the sheriff there if it's the middle of the night and they're drunk and breaking the place up. But if, we just need to we haven't treated Hamilton the
Right.
same. And with this saturation thing, that would take care of something. And then it's the city, really, if you've got those kind of issues, it's gonna be the sheriff in town or not. I mean,
so if I could just say something for clarification.
Thank
and
you.
Assuming that the same motion is made on this one that it was on the other. The motion was to come within 6 months with some plan.
Right.
That doesn't mean that we can't take immediate steps right now to
Yeah.
address some of the things and issues that have come up.
That's right.
From the Hamilton Code. We can, if there's things that we can fix, right now, that puts a limitation, and by 6 months, you have to come back.
Yeah.
But if there's immediate
Yeah.
fixes
Yeah.
we can do,
Yeah.
for instance, if we can have the saturation map attached to applications going forward, we can do that. if there's some immediate enforcements we can start doing, we can do that right now. But, you know, so I took, and I take the motion is that by 6 months, you're gonna have this overall study done, but we understand the issues of the residents and the planning commission, but we don't have to wait for 6 months. So I just wanted to, that's how I'm interpreting the direction.
That's how you're interpreting the urgency of this issue.
Yes.
So we can
Right,
add.
got it, okay.
Any other general discussion before
Well, there's a
motions
couple of
made?
things that when I got on my soapbox, I failed to mention. We've had very few complaints come to us regarding these issues at Hamilton Cove. And it may be a growing problem, it may be a new problem. I'm not gonna rule out the fact that, I'm very familiar with the way Bart manages his company. His wife and I and my wife were sitting down having dinner, and he got a call in the middle of dinner and ran out of there to go handle a problem and a complaint. And I've been on the golf course with Denny Hunsey, who's, had to leave me hanging there as my, the guy covering my ground stroke, who had to leave to go handle the problem as well. And it may very well be that the VRBO side of things has created issues. We need to study it, and we need to do our homework, and we need to solve the problem. So I missed that part of it. I know, Julie, you and Bart and CIVR has done a great job. They did a great job in my neighborhood when I was down here on the flats and had issues with people partying on my roof, which did not end well for me. So, that being said, I'll make a motion to approve this application. And will the applicant stand for a minute so I can identify who you are? You understand what you're up against. So it's an issue and a problem, so I recommend that, you handle it like a big guy, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll make that motion with the standard list of conditions that I put on the previous one.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, but then,
Okay, general discussion or additional discussion, go ahead.
so, what Bob, what you're talking about, we should do something right away, we should start doing these things right away, we should make it clear that, and make it immediately some way that we know how to make a complaint, so that how it can be handled, so we start tracking this stuff. So if it's a bigger problem, then at Hamilton, you gotta start turning it in, and the city has to step up to it. But we should start doing that, right away. But, this one, it's just only to me because of the saturation to do, just to have it noted. You look like a decent person, but just the saturation issue is, we just need to start, the city does need to step up to do our part, but still a lot of that, and it's like, if you don't, out there you can't see who to call, and now that there are, Verbo and Airbnb, and I know that we usually get a name, but do we really, is everybody out there who's had these for a while? Do you know who to call if it's not a sheriff issue? That you got to step up and figure out that the city needs to have that information, and we need to, if you want us involved, we've got to have information to be involved.
We have to have the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Any other discussion before we vote?
Can I ask a board member a question after?
No, let's not. Any discussion amongst us
No.
before? Okay.
There's one other, after this, Yoli.
I know, I just,
Okay, call for a vote.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
yes.
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruth.
No. Can,
Okay, motion carried. Do we want to do the next Hamilton?
The next Hamilton
So we'll
Cove one,
do
that's a
number 7?
Number
Yeah.
7,
Yes.
86
Okay.
Gaviota.
I just,
Okay, staff report?
can I ask you a question?
Really?
Please. Sorry,
I
Ellie.
just wanted to ask council, can I ask him a question, please?
Why don't you wait until, can you make it a part of the
This one?
questions to staff after the
Yes,
staff report?
yes.
Okay,
Thank
excellent.
you.
Thank you. Just keep it moving.
Item number 7 is requesting a transient rental license coastal development permit to allow renting or leasing of a room with or without table boards at a dwelling at 86 Gaviota. The owner and applicant is James Brownell. Are you in the audience? Karina will be representing him. The property is located in the low-density residential zone, and the property contains 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. It's developed with a residential use consistent with the general plan and is allowed under the 2022 growth policy. The property manager for the unit is CIVR, and the contact information is located in your staff reports. The subject property and all surrounding properties are developed with single and multi-residential units. The requested transient rental license does not involve any physical changes to the existing residence that would adversely affect or be materially detrimental to adjacent uses, buildings, and structures. The proposed project is categorically exempt under Section 15305 of the state CEQA guidelines for minor alterations and land use limitations. The project requires a coastal development permit under Section 9-8.102 of the Avalon Municipal Code. The project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. City staff have received comments in opposition of the transient rental license. Staff recommends that we find the project categorically exempt under Section 15305 of the state CEQA guidelines. Adopt the findings necessary as outlined in the staff report to support approval of the coastal development permit, including that the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. That is the conclusion.
Any questions for staff before we open the hearing? Yoli?
Well, it's not, it's,
Any comments or questions? To clarify,
I know you're saying we, something effective now, that we don't have to wait for 6 months.
Correct.
I know, it sounded like everybody is having issues with the new Airbnb, VRBO, because they're not here. They have, and I get that. So maybe something like a condition now would be, the property management company has to be on the island or at, you know what I mean, not
That-
some.
that is a
Even they
condition.
do, they say that, but I'm saying there's reputable, not reputable, I shouldn't say reputable, or what, but there's vacation, like CVIR that's been in business and has plenty of employees, and, I don't know if Earl does it, I don't think he does it anymore, but companies that manage vacation rentals that are active 24 hours a day and respond and have a better response time than a friend who just has a phone number, because we have a lot of those where this is my property and I have so-and-so down the road who lives down the street, here's his phone number. It's just because it's part of the application process. Does that make sense?
But
So maybe somebody that has the experience of managing vacation rental, they respond quicker and they're more effective than just a friend down the road with a phone number that could be called and never show up. Does that make sense?
But
It does, I'm sorry.
That's on the rule, that's the way it should be now.
Well,
It is required now.
Yeah, it's
no,
required.
it is required, but what they're putting is, like, a lot of people put so-and-so's doing it, my neighbor down the street, and here's the phone number because I have to have somebody that's on the island 24 hours. It doesn't mean that they own a vacation property and having a vacation company, have a vacation company managing the property, is what I'm saying. We see that a lot on these. So that
Well-
might be another way to mitigate some.
Well, we just need to enforce it.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
take care of the property next door to me. And I told the guy, somebody else owned it for 50 years. This guy's responsible, and he said, "You sure you don't mind?" And I said, "Look, if there's a problem here, who's closer? Who's gonna get hurt more or
I'm
or
just
have
trying,
a-
yeah, I'm just trying to
I know, but I'm saying.
help
All right,
the
but I'm
situation.
just saying, but I do it only because I live next door.
Right.
But I do it, and most of the time I have to go over there to help somebody turn the TV on and get it all coordinated, or just get the door unlocked or something like that. But, yeah, there's been a gas leak too. But, you know, so I don't think you have to be in the business, but you have to have knowledge of it. I know there's people here who are,
I think it would help.
well,
I mean, that's my
okay.
opinion.
All right, then that means that I can't take care of the person right next
I-
door to
I'm-
me.
They're
Any,
saying,
But
any
we haven't
any other
ever
questions
done that.
before we open the public
No, no,
hearing
but if-
for staff?
But remember that in Hamilton, we haven't done that because they don't want the sign in the window
but
and this
they
and
were
that.
saying that they have
Yeah.
issues
Yeah, I
with the
know.
VRBO and the
Yeah.
Airbnb, so I was trying to mitigate and help the situation, you know, trying to, you know,
Yeah, no, I understand, but it's, there again, it's a matter of doing it and not just saying. Or
Okay.
asking who
And-
that person is. If they're in town, but we don't know who they are, then find that out.
And that may be direction where we
Right.
put more teeth in it later.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to
No,
throw
no,
that out
no,
there.
It's a good comment, both of you.
Okay, I'm going to open the hearing.
Kate Rudden, 895 Playa Azul. To answer your question, Yoli, when the CUPs came up for license and the city came out and said, you know, re-up, we handed ours back. And Amanda sent us a license and we said, we don't want it. And now we still keep getting them, so we just pay the check. There's a number of people in that list that have written letters that don't have CUPs. It's not an issue of whether you have a CUP or rented in the past. Nobody could have predicted Airbnb, the internet, Hotels.com. We used to have 2 rental companies. Denny used to take care of my unit. We pulled our unit off the market before we even retired out there. Yes, we need solutions, and I appreciate your honesty in trying to help solve these problems. We don't want to be complainers. We're not. We're using our civil and civic duty to bring attention to the city of Avalon. You hand out the permits. The board of directors doesn't. They've collected $17,000 in fines. But there's no problem. How can that be? Those fines are like $100 a piece. You have the list in front of you. $17,000 is a heck of a lot of money. But that doesn't go to repairing my sleepless nights or having to call the sheriff department at 4 o'clock in the morning. And yes, CIVR was contacted the day after the event, but the people weren't kicked out of that unit and they continued to stay there for 3 days causing issues. We need help. I appreciate you stepping up and offering to help, but I did want to provide some clarification on some of the negative comments which are not appreciated. We're just trying to solve a problem. We don't want to get nasty or personal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, to everybody's point, I do believe the biggest enemy in the room is the unregulated Airbnbs, VRBOs, and so on. Most of them will have someone that may live on the island or may not, who will answer the line 24/7. Unfortunately, those people don't face the same repercussions as we do. If this is a matter of dedication of our job, I'm also missing my daughter's Christmas concert to be here. So both myself and all the managers at CIVR answer calls at 2 a.m. There are certain sensitive neighbors that we are aware of that have our cell phone numbers to overwrite our 855 number, which is listed, you know, at the guard gate or in town on the windows. The problem is that even when we had a moratorium in place during COVID, I have discovered 25 units that were still being rented. During that time, CIVR was getting the backlash that we were the ones renting them. We weren't representing any of those owners. I did take a screenshot, send it over to the city, and I said, this may be the problem that we're all facing. I logged back in 2 weeks later, they were still all there. I frequently talk to owners in this town who say, oh, you know, I rent on Airbnb, but now I've decided to do mine legal, so can you represent us? We want to get a permit. That's something that happens currently in my profession. We always monitor, we do advertise our properties on both VRBO and Airbnb. We get about 10% of our renters' overall reservations that do come from Airbnb. The biggest problem we have overall are the guests that come from the Airbnb space. We find that they respect the rules less. In spite of all the contracts you can send them, we are seeing a problem. I'm happy to work towards a solution with those guests that are rowdy. Again, we do have a number listed. Everyone has my number that needs it. Everyone has Lalo's number, who's our maintenance manager in town, who answers the call at 3 a.m. Not only that, but we have an escalation in our after-hours line. If you call the person that's on call that night and he's not available, within 10 minutes, the phone routes to Lalo. Within 10 more minutes will come to me. So it's not just one person that will ignore a call. There's a process in place, and that is because we are being held accountable. We are here, we pay our taxes, and we have a transparent business. So I think that the biggest problem, again, is finding a way to regulate those that think it's okay to just have the neighbor down the road be their professional management company.
Thank you.
If you have any other questions regarding Jim and Barbara Brownell, I'm happy to present them to you. They've been visiting the island for more than 20 years, renting between Hamilton Cove Real Estate and CIVR. And now they decided that they want to purchase something and possibly retire here one day. And in the meantime, just help them offset the costs.
Thank you.
We rented for, George McCormick again, we rented for 12 years with CIVR when Denny was there. Denny was fantastic and really responded, and about the time he left, we ended our term there. But I know in the last couple of years, CIVR, despite the comments just made, was one of the parties that was hard to get a hold of during the pandemic period. And just to test this, is because Hamilton Cove has been collecting phone numbers, and CIVR is one of the most common numbers on the list of rental units. My wife called 2 or 3 times the last week, after hours. They got voicemail, waited. Nobody ever responded. So I think we need some level of enforcement, even with CIVR, to make sure that there's somebody's oversight. And then again, the city, I want the city, if it was a real problem, I would say I'd send in a rental complaint because they didn't respond. But, we were just testing the system. So we need to have the system looked at so it actually works, and that's what I'm getting back at. And the city of Avalon needs to oversee that, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to close the hearing. Discussion or motion?
Basically, we keep addressing the whole issue, the whole place, and voting for one, specific thing. But see, look at what we're doing. We're not even paying attention to this application. We're dealing with the overall thing, which, we haven't asked one question about this thing. We know the last one, there was a saturation issue. This one, we don't know anything, right?
We've got the application in front of us, so I think.
Yeah, I know, and I've read it. I've
Okay,
read the
good.
whole thing. I read all of them, but
Comments or motion?
I'll move to approve this application just like the previous 2. Again, let's get it fixed.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
yes.
No.
We are consistent.
Okay, motion passed, and I think I'll go get Bart.
Yeah.
probably fell asleep.
2, 3 more.
4. Gotta go item 4, back.
There's like 2 more plus then all the revocation things.
We're gonna do those in groups.
I know, I figured.
Oh, you should put it back.
Again, it's about time we got it here. Yeah, I know that you know, it's just.
Donna, I found your candy jars.
Just like us now, here we are.
Did the sugar run out for our
I don't know, but it's pretty dark out there. The darkness makes you wanna go.
Just look for the Christmas tree.
So we are on number 4.
I think, yeah, because we did 5 and 7.
We finished 3, 5, and 7. No, yeah, and 7, I think.
The next item will be number 4.
3, 5, and 7. Good. So we're further along than we thought.
Okay,
But we're not even there.
I know. It's hard to wake up from my nap. Okay.
Peter's in here.
Item number 4. Oh, we lose Susanna?
Number 4 is for 108 Middle Terrace. It was continued from the October meeting and November meeting.
Okay.
The owner applicant is Howard and Linda Hugo. I believe you're here. The property is located in a medium-density residential zone and contains 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. Developed with the residential use consistent with the general plan and is allowed under the 2022 growth plans. The property manager for the unit is listed as CIDR, and this is a duplex, and the other unit is used as a vacation home for Howard's family. The subject property and all its surrounding properties are developed with single and multi-residential units. The requested transient rental license does not involve any physical changes to the existing residence that would adversely affect or be materially detrimental to adjacent uses, buildings, and structures. The saturation map attached in the report indicates that oversaturation will not occur. The proposed project is categorically exempt under section 15305 of the state secret guidelines, minor alterations in land use limitations. The project requires a coastal development permit under section 9-8.102 of the Avalon Municipal Code, and the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. City staff have received both comments in favor and opposition of the transient rental. They were given to you in your staff reports, and a couple were there prior to the meeting. Staff recommends the planning commission find the project categorically exempt under section 15305 of the state secret guidelines, minor alterations in land use, adopt the findings necessary as outlined in the staff report to support approval of the coastal development permit, including that the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone, and find the application is allowed under the 2022 annual growth policy. That concludes my presentation.
Can I ask you a question? I was here in October, and it was held over, and I wasn't here last month because I was sick, so I could still vote on this.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion before we open this up for public, the continuation of public hearing?
Can I just make one comment? It's like a typo, but it says that in the report, we're saying that there's a maximum occupancy of 4. In the resolution, it's correct.
Okay,
It's
I will
8.
make that adjustment.
But just so that,
Anything else before we open the public hearing, or continue the public hearing? We'll continue the public hearing on this. Anyone like to speak for or against this matter? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Howie Hugo. I live at the property you're considering, 108 Middle Terrace. I was unable to make it last October. We had a conflict, but happy that you carried it over so I could be here. I watched the meeting, so I'm familiar with what was concerned and the letter from Bob Blair. And so since that time, I've called and talked to Bob, our neighbor, and discussed the items that were of concern to him. And they are my concerns also. We enjoy a wonderful neighborhood. We enjoy the quiet, which can be a challenge in the summer at 2 o'clock in the morning when the bars close. But that's part of what we have here. But in our neighborhood, we want it to be quiet and we want it to work for all our neighbors. One of the unique parts of our request here with a short-term rental is that we have a duplex, and we live most of that high use of visitor occupancy is when we are here also. And so we're here to monitor that just like anybody else would want it to be quiet. So we live in the home. We're here, anywhere from, 4 to 7 months a year. And all those things, whether it was traffic or parking or the quiet, all those things are the same concerns that we have. And so if you agree to give us the privilege to have a short-term rental license, we will do our best to comply with the concerns and the whole intent of having a good community to live in. Any questions you would have? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak on this matter? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Discussion?
You may have closed it while she was getting up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Karina. My bad.
I just simply wanted to see if anyone wants to do a test call for after hours, where if there's a time where we can all sit down and just test how our after hours line's working. I think it's more of a matter of people not using it correctly in spite of having the correct information on the windows and the guard gates having it. So if at any time anyone's interested to see how it operates and what we get from our end, so that we can prove with facts who called, what message was left, and when someone else called them from our team, I'm happy to demonstrate that. So if that's a question of credibility, just let me know and I have all the data available for everyone here. Since this seems to be the biggest problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karina.
Okay. Discussion amongst ourselves. Or a motion. I think this is kind of a prime example with someone that lives right in the property as well. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
I'll make the motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Do we have a second?
I'll say it.
Any other discussion before we vote? Looks like we're good.
Chairman Glass,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Commissioner Rue.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 6.
For 320 Catalina. Item number 3 is requesting a transient rental license and coastal development permit to allow renting or leasing of a room with or without table boards in a dwelling unit for periods of less than 30 consecutive days. The owner applicant is Community Builders. It's right out here in the audience.
Okay.
Property is located within medium density residential zone. The property contains 3 buildings, 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and is developed with a residential use consistent with the general plan and is allowed under the 2022 growth policy. The property manager for the unit is Veronica Bravo, and her contact information is included with your staff report. The subject property and all the surrounding properties are developed as single and multi-residential units. The requested transient rental license does not involve physical changes to the existing residents that would adversely affect or be materially detrimental to adjacent uses, buildings, and structures. The saturation map attached in the staff report indicates that oversaturation will not occur. The proposed project is categorically exempt under section 15305 of the state SEQA guidelines. Minor alterations in land use limitations. Coastal development permit project requires a coastal development permit under section 9-8.102 of the Avalon Municipal Code, and the project is not within the 300-foot appealable zone. City staff have received both comments in favor and opposition of the transient rental license, and they are included in your staff reports. Staff recommends the planning commission find the project categorically exempt under section 15305 of the state SEQA guidelines. For minor alterations and land use limitations, adopt the findings necessary as outlined in the staff report to support the approval of the coastal development permit, including that the project is not within the 300-foot appealable zone. And find application is allowed under the 2022 annual growth policy, and that includes my presentation.
Okay. Any discussion before we open this public hearing?
One question to staff. In your staff report, you make mention of a letter of opposition to this property. You said in support and opposition.
Yes.
And I do not have one in opposition.
I just have one in support as well.
Was left at the desk, the one in opposition, was left on the desk right here. There was 4 copies, I believe.
Oh, gotcha.
They came after Friday, so I left
I
them.
stand corrected. Thank you.
I should have pointed that out.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other conversation before we open the public hearing amongst ourselves? Open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come up and state your name. Applicant?
Hi, I'm George Paquette from 320 Catalina. I wasn't aware of a letter of opposition at all, so I know this is just a speaking point, but I'd love to hear about it afterwards so I can address it. And if there is a concern, we'd love to hear about it.
Great. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Discussion. Appreciate your attitude about trying to iron that out with whoever's upset about it. I think that's great. And more of that is always needed. Any discussion, or anyone want to make a motion? Sorry, they're all worn out.
I'll be that guy. I'll make a motion to approve this application.
Okay.
Standard list of conditions.
I'll second.
Any further discussion before we vote? We've had it. Go ahead, Donna, please.
Okay, Chairman Glass,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruth.
Yes.
Okay, the next couple items we have,
Stand by 1 second.
oh,
So,
Everyone's done?
I did find a letter, but it was in support of it. So I do not see one that's in opposition, so if one does exist,
I will give
if
it to
the
you.
applicant could get a
I will
copy.
give it to you, George, for sure.
okay, there are about, looks to me, about 3 or 4 Hamilton codes
Yeah, I'm
off.
gonna, on the revocation, so let's start by
Hey,
doing
where
some
are we?
housekeeping and some overview as to apply to all of these. And then we will be having some that
Bunch them
where you
together.
recuse yourselves. We're gonna try and do this in a way that we can, if there's no opposition, handle these all at once, to be efficient. just for the record, we do have attending via Zoom, William Litvack. He is an attorney from our code enforcement firm. And the reason for that is that I'm here representing the city on behalf of the revocations of the CUP. If you have any legal questions about the process or so, William is here to answer any of those questions. I can't advise you on the process and at the same time be asking that you revoke it. So that's why we have another attorney.
Lots of legal minds involved here.
Okay. So we do have 10 on the agenda. We're going to ask that you poll 2 of them and continue 3 of them, so we're only going to hear 5. But we wanted to start with the processes. What the process was originally was we went through the city records to look at which kind of people who had transient occupancies weren't reporting transient occupancy tax or weren't having their business license. And so we had a large list of those. Matt will go over those. And we sent letters out to those people, a number of those people, asking them, hey, you've got a CUP or a license that's not in use. We can start revocation process to revoke it unless you want to voluntarily give up that permit. And so a number of those people did send in documentation that we had prepared to give up their permits. And so the ones here are the ones that haven't done that yet. But this would have been much larger, but we did narrow that down. So Matt, I don't know how many, if you can give us the stats on that part of the process.
How many voluntarily gave
Right,
up?
exactly.
Okay, so kind of touching on what Scott had mentioned, I received a list from the planning department of all either CUPs, grandfathered CUPs, if you will. So those are the CUPs prior to the CUPs going into effect, and the new transient rental licenses. I went through that list and cross-referenced it against our business license database, looking for an active business license. And what I mean by active, it could be open and paid, or there could be a unpaid balance. So if there was a closed license associated with the property, it would be flagged as an exception in kind of the review that I performed. The third piece to it was I was looking then at whether we had any record of TOT received for the particular properties. And so going through that list of approximately 350 CUPs, transient rental licenses, or grandfathered properties, we identified 20 properties that did not have an active business license. Of those 20 properties, 5 of them had been paying TOT, and 15 had no TOT payments going back. And I looked at fiscal years 21 and 22, and then today I did another check just to get it up to date. In those 5 properties that did not have a license but were paying TOT, we reached out to the property owner to inform them that their license had either expired and been closed, or they had not obtained a license for them to cure. Most of them, the situation is if you own 2 properties, and I think historically this has been allowed, but not per my reading of the code, is that each individual property needs its own license. So in a lot of these cases where we had the 5 owners paying TOT, they own, say, 2 properties, but only had 1 business license for the 2 properties. And so that was kind of the situation with those 5. So that left 15 properties that did not have a business license and had paid 0 in TOT. And the next step in the process is we have a software tool that we can utilize that scours the Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com. There's 60 or so sites that the software reviews to see whether they were actively renting. My concern there was I wanted to know if they were actively renting and not having a license, because then TOT would likely be owed to the city as well. For those 15 properties, there was no active renting in the last 2 years, so 2020 to present now. And so I then sent that list over to planning of 15 properties to send out a notification. That letter outlined their options of either showing that they had obtained a business license and paying TOT, paying any past due amounts, or voluntarily giving up the CUP. Directly with finance, we had two come to finance. One of them had a business license, but in our business license database, we had an incorrect address down. And so it was just more of a housekeeping item. And then we had another that was paying TOT, but did not have a business license. And I was later able to confirm that they were paying TOT. And they were able to cure by obtaining an active business license. The remaining three went to planning, and I believe, I don't know, two of them voluntarily.
One of them voluntarily.
One voluntarily revoked, and the other two were either, there must have been another administrative issue where they had a business license, wrong address, but two I personally cleared from the list. Planning cleared the other three, and so that's how we got down to the list of 10. Since I'm up here, I also did look for anyone who wasn't paying any TOT but actively renting, and we did identify about 12 properties that were posted on Airbnb, VRBO, and we sent letters to those properties, and we've collected approximately 60 to 70,000 in back TOT from those properties. I was focused on properties in that review that didn't report anything. But we do have the ability with this tool to look at underreporting as well. But I wanted to get kind of I don't want to say the worst offenders, but the ones that were completely kind of off our radar, if you will, first. And so that's how we came to the list of 10. And then if there's any questions.
I had a question of you. Last time we discussed this and we changed this from CUPs to a license, I believe we had said there was no minimum tax if you didn't rent it. You still, I think, had to get a business license, but if you didn't rent it, there was no minimum tax that was due or number of days or anything like that. Is that correct?
No, we have 1 day now, I think.
Right now, I don't recall that I don't think we passed you still have to use it.
Okay.
At least once.
Okay. I thought we had.
There was a debate about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it's 3 days under the business license section of our code. It's 3 days per year.
We were
And
trying to go from 1
at
to
least in
3.
part of that review, I didn't take any action of anyone who hadn't rented, provided they weren't actively listing on the
Renting.
sites, and provided they had obtained a business license.
Well, being in this business, I appreciate what you do because I see stuff like that where people have rented
And I
and
guess
they're
to
not out there.
the public that's listening, if there are any addresses that, warrant additional attention, I can't speak to but we do have the ability to research it, and, we're happy if we get those tips to take the appropriate steps.
It's great.
There may be some out there that have business license that just aren't renting, that may be the next phase.
Right.
Potentially, and again, the goal was trying to, I don't want to, put severity to it, but I wanted to get the ones that were completely off the radar, and by that I mean no business license, no TOT payment as kind of the first priority.
I think that's great.
So the next phase would be, again, looking at those that have licenses but just aren't using it. And I think at Hamilton Cove earlier today, they tested, I think someone said that 40% of them aren't being used.
A lot of them I know. They have
So
them
that
out
may
there.
be something that, again, further to, because part of the consideration in looking at modifying the rules for transient occupancy is how many active licenses do we really have? And there's a direction to kind of cull the herd, so to say. And so this is the first part of that process.
That would help in saturation too.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to, because I think a lot of people think, if they don't want to use it, but they still have to pay the 3 days to keep it, don't we have, and so that then we're still trying to keep track of, right? Don't we have something that you can bank it? Like if you decide to rent it to a year-round person, I think there's something in the municipal code where you can bank it because you're renting it to a resident, which is wonderful, amazing. So I think we, as a city, gave that opportunity to still have the permit because they're doing that. So we do have that.
There is a process to bank the license. I defer to planning on what the steps are for that, but there are properties that are currently banked, and so as part of the review, obviously, those banked properties didn't come up as a finding, provided they had a
Right.
year-round rental license that was active.
And how it related to the saturation
That's what I'm
map
saying, yeah.
is that when we look at the saturation map, that just goes into who has a license, not who's actually using it. And so as we now go through the second phase of it and eliminate maybe people that aren't using it, those little saturation dots may disappear.
May change.
Because they may have, they may never be used, and so therefore take them off the map, so to say, for saturation.
Okay.
So where we are now is we have noticed 10. We want to pull 2. We want to pull number 9 on the agenda, as well as number 14, for reasons either in noticing or you have to renotice, or one of them was under construction, and so there was a reason that they had a reason why they weren't renting it, because the home was under construction.
Are we holding it over?
No, we're just pulling them.
Oh, pulling them.
Pulling them.
Okay, pulling them.
So then we have 8. Then of the 8, we're asking that 3 be continued. And the reason those 3 we're asking to be continued is that those owners have said, oh, I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna pay taxes. I'm gonna file all the paperwork. And so rather than revocation, we're gonna hold it over for a month for those to come into play. If they don't, then next month we revoke. So those would be items 8, 11, and 12, and number, are any of those Hamilton Code? 8,
Two of them
11,
are.
and 12.
Two are Hamilton Code.
Okay. So for that one, if we could have a motion to continue with Commissioner Glass abstaining from those, if we could just have a universal motion for all 3 to continue, you would just abstain, and the record would indicate that you're abstaining from those 2 on Hamilton Code.
So moved.
And we would be continuing it to the planning
Does
commission
the hearing have to be
meeting.
open first?
Yes, we have to open the
Okay.
public hearing.
Withdrawn.
You can't
So I'll open the public hearing. Okay? Can open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? Don't all rush the podium. Okay?
And I'd like to make, sorry.
Close the public hearing.
No, we're gonna continue the public.
Oh, excuse me. I'm a little confused.
Continue the public
Been
hearing.
asleep
Come on, you
for the last hour.
two.
I've been asleep for the last
The
hour.
date is January 18th.
Okay,
For numbers 8, 11, and 12.
Yes.
okay.
I got that.
I've abstained.
Roll call.
Oh, do I have a
no,
second?
Yeah, I seconded it.
It's,
Eric. 3 times.
Might have been 4, but who's counting?
we're glad you're here for this one.
All right, so we done with that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, Dan.
We didn't-
Yeah,
we
we need
didn't
to
have a
vote.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Chairman, Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruth.
Yes.
Okay, so now on the,
Commissioner Glass.
Abstain.
Okay.
so now on the remaining 5, we're actually gonna have a hearing. My question is there anyone in the audience opposing those 5? Is there anyone here opposing the revocation? Okay, hearing none. That's just a procedural thing. What I'd like to do is to take let's do the non-Hamilton Cove ones. We'll take them all together. So those would be, get this right here.
14, 15,
Just,
16.
No,
No, 13.
14 was pulled.
13.
14 was
13.
pulled?
It would just be 16, 15.
13, 15, and 16, would it not? 13. Was 13 pulled or not? It wasn't pulled, was it?
It's 10, 13, 15, 16.
10 is the Hamilton Cove.
Okay, so we're doing 13, 15, and 16.
I don't even have.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is open the public hearing on those three.
Okay. I'll open the public hearing on item number 13, 15, and 16.
Okay, and then for those, I would like to have the city present two types of evidence. The first evidence is testimony from the planning department as to whether the appropriate notices were provided under the municipal code and California law for 13, items number 13, 15, and 16. That notice being the owners of these were mailed. We noticed people who live within 300 feet of them. It was also published in the newspaper. Was that done for all three, and could you give us the addresses?
Yes, that is correct. It was done for 208 Descanso, 216 Marilla, and 335 Eucalyptus.
So the notices were provided, and then next would be if Matt could provide your information on behalf of planning as to whether there's licenses for this and TOT received for each of these addresses.
Finance has no record of payment received for business license and no record of TOT payments received for the properties located at 208 Descanso, 216 Marilla, and 335 Eucalyptus.
Okay. So there's our proof.
So that's, the city's saying that that is the proof, and so this time you can, we'd ask that you close the public hearing and then vote on it, and deliberate, vote on it, and ask any questions to Mr. Litvak, who is listening.
Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Litvak? Mysteriously around us here somewhere. No questions? Okay, I guess we would make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Here we go.
I will second the motion.
No more discussion. We call for a vote.
Okay, Chairman Glass,
Yes?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruth.
Yes.
Great, and so what we'll do pursuant to the municipal code is we will be sending written notification to those three. They do have the right to appeal to the city council, if that happens, but we'll see. Okay, so now we go to the other two, and Commissioner Glass will be recusing himself.
This time I'm taking my jacket. It's cold out there.
Two more or one more?
Two more or one more, hang on.
One more.
Just the one,
Item number
right?
10.
No, I thought we had 10.
Item number
10, 9.
We took 9 off.
No, I
9 off.
10.
11, 12.
Are we down to
continue.
one?
I think we're
No,
down to one.
I thought.
It's just number 10.
Just number 10.
Yep, okay,
Right.
number 10.
Number 10.
All right, so on number
Walk us
10,
through.
if you could
Please.
open the public hearing,
Open the hearing?
and on behalf of the planning department, can you affirm that a written notice was sent to the property owner, to the adjacent owners, and that notice of the revocation hearing was published in the newspaper?
Yes.
Okay. And on behalf of the city finance department, can you affirm that the business license and that there is no business license and no fees received for this property?
Can you say the time frame of it?
Within 1 year from the notice of revocation.
Thank you. No, the city does not have any record of payments received for the business license or TOT payments in the last year.
As the sum of the city's evidence, we'd ask that the public hearing be closed and that you make a determination.
Public hearing is closed. Any discussion or motion that states our determination?
I will move to revoke this permit.
Is there
I
a
will
second?
second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Okay. Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt?
Yes.
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruth?
Yes.
Okay. I'll go get Bart.
While you're getting Bart,
Thank you.
I just noticed this, Scott, on item number 13,
Yes.
do you see who the property owner is?
Municipal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I see. I also saw that the owner of the property for the other one was the hospital,
Yeah.
medical, and I had a discussion today with them.
Okay. I don't want them boycotting picking up my trash, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Although the hospital said they weren't gonna treat you, so.
I would have kept that comment to myself.
We've already had that conversation.
Scott's back.
Boy, what you have, we can't fix.
I think we're done. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do we have any announcements or anything that we'd like to bring up before we end the meeting? Okay. Say goodnight to Tony.
Night, Tony.
Night, Tony.
Adjourn. You got.